What's up, guys and girls? As you can see, the transmission's back out of the car. And you may have noticed we didn't have a video last week. It was Easter. I was hanging out with my family and whatnot. I probably could have done something, but you know what? I took a week off. Sorry. At the end of the race at Pittsburgh, the clutch was smoking a fair amount. I didn't change the clutch when we swapped the transmission last time. It was the clutch from last season, and I kind of just rolled the dice. We probably got lucky. Now, after watching that video, you probably noticed there was cars in front of us when we got toward the finish line. Way out in the distance, but less than a straightaway. Those cars were actually for position, so had we got a caution, I probably could have did a lot better than 7th place. Because after Ricky Weaver got by me, we continued to catch up to the rest of the field. We ran out of laps. But see, if I was 7th, he was 6th. So 4th and 5th were right there, within striking distance. With at least, if we had 5 more laps, we'd have been right on them. Probably ahead of them. But apparently, my clutch was giving up on me, because when we pulled off the track and came to a stop, it was smoking. So it got its workout for 25 laps straight, green to checkered. And then we went to put it on the trailer, it was smoking again, trying to get it up on the trailer. So I'm going to go with it's smoked. Now, I may get this thing out of here, and it may not look bad at all, but we're racing, not daily driving. So I ordered a clutch kit. Try not to hit my head here. When it comes to a clutch kit, you go on the front wheel drive page and stuff, and there's guys on there with lightweight flywheels, aluminum, titanium, whatever. They got triple disc clutches or whatever fancy shit. I don't use any of that stuff. Luck replacement, LUK. That's what we all, for the most part, I think that's what we all use. The Cobalt crew guys anyways. Just luck replacement clutches. And I've never had to replace a clutch mid-season. I usually will put a new clutch in right at the beginning of the year. You know, when I do my actual general maintenance during the winter that I didn't really do this year. We kind of just parked the car. But normally, I will put a new clutch in at the beginning of the season. And it's, like I said, LUK, stock replacement clutch. I put that thing on at the beginning of the season, and I have yet to have a problem during the season. Even if I change transmissions, I've yet to have a problem with it. So if you want to spend big money, put some fancy clutch on your car, I guess go ahead, but I think I've proven you don't really need to do that. Just like I've proven you don't need a ton of horsepower, and you don't need to make your car super, super light. For those of you that may be new here, I see it doesn't look terrible. For those of you that may be new here, this car weighs over 2,700 pounds. And if you go back to last year when we dynoed the car, it only dynoed at like 170 horsepower. So not super high in horsepower, and also not light. But we qualified 8th fastest out of 53 cars in a SCDRA Northeast race. 8th fastest out of 53 cars. And my lap times definitely could have been better, because when I slowed myself down a little bit, I shaved a whole second off of my lap time. So we definitely were faster than 8th fastest. A whole second is a lot. So as you can see, I don't know how much you can tell. There's still some left there, some meat left, but there's quite a bit of powder and residue, and you can see some of the copper threads and whatnot in there. So yeah, I'm gonna call it smoked. So got a little bit of discoloration on the pressure plate here. It's a little purplish. So she got a little bit warm. Not terrible, but also not good enough for a race car. Street car, I would have just kept driving it. Flywheel is the same deal. Luck, LUK, stock replacement flywheel. I don't do fancy stuff. It's not how I roll. That doesn't look too bad, other than having a lot of clay in there and dust, friction plate dust, and dirt from the racetrack, because as you saw in the video, it was super, super dry. So We got a little bit of everything in there, contributing to. I'm just breathing this in. It's probably asbestos. Yeah. So, April 13th. I don't know what today is. Next weekend, I think. We're going to Outlaw Speedway for the second SCDRA Northeast race. We're not going to run the full season with those guys just because it's a lot of traveling and we got the quarter midget for the kids, so it's just not really feasible. It's not in the cards. But we're going to run, we ran Pittsburgh, we're going to run both Outlaw races. Maybe we'll squeeze in another one, see how I'm feeling. But Outlaw, I'm kind of excited for Outlaw because we usually do pretty good when we go to Outlaw. We're usually the first or second front wheel drive car across the line. Down there, we tend to get beat by the Mustangs. They got about 3 or 4 really fast rear wheel drives down there that run weekly. But because it's SCDRA Northeast, no rear wheel drives. So, just front wheel drives. So we should do, with any luck at all, we should do pretty well. It's $2,500 to win. Obviously, my plan is to win. You always go in there to win, right? And I could use the money for sure. But can't guarantee on that. So, I'm going to mount this new clutch up. It's right there. I can give you the part number if you want. Hold on a second. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Maybe I can give you the part number. 04-246. Rock Auto. I think they're a couple $100, I think, for a clutch kit. So, new throwout, alignment tool, a little grease, grease, and your new pressure plate and disc. So, I'm gonna get this mounted up. It's really not much for you to see here. But you know what? I'll show you anyway. So what else are we doing, right? There we go. So, grab this friction disc here. If you look at this disc, on one side, you might not be able to see it here. On this side, right there, it says flywheel side. It says it right on there, so you can't screw it up. It's also the side that has the stepped spline piece sticking out of it, is the flywheel side. This tool fits in the spline. Whoop. Put that right in the crank, like so. Push that bad boy in there, like that. You grab your pressure plate, which I should clean this off with something quick. Just make sure there's no oil on it. Where's my brake cleaner? Brake cleaner, where are you, brake cleaner? I always set those cans down and don't know where they are. I got some mass airflow cleaner, that'll work. Lay some of that on there. Wipe that friction plate off. Or wipe that pressure plate off where it hits the friction plate. Get that cleaned off. Alright, so if you look at this, there's bumps where this pressure plate is mounted. Those have to line up with these little gaps in your flywheel here. But I mean, you gotta line up the bolts too, so it is what it is. I'm just gonna grab 2 bolts here to hold this up while we're messing around here. Bolts are 10mm. And like anything that's round, you want to tighten them up in a crisscross pattern. And you want to go slow because as you tighten these up, it's going to collapse the spring in here as you tighten them up. So, yeah. I reuse the bolts on the clutch. I have reused flywheel bolts, but it's extremely frowned upon. Not suggested. Usually if I replace flywheel, I will go to, I don't know, someplace online and order new flywheel bolts. But for clutch bolts, I use the same ones. And I'm going to be honest with you, there is a torque spec. I don't follow it. I just don't. I don't know. I'm bad like that, I guess. I'm bad. Sometimes I use my little impact gun, which is over there on the bench. I could go grab that. But we'll do it by hand. I mean, are you in a hurry? You going somewhere? You're probably sitting on the toilet. So a lot of guys have been messaging me lately asking about tire sizes. It really depends on the size of the track you're running, what the ratio of your transmission is, and where you want to run in your RPM range. If your car's tuned, well then your tuner probably can tell you about what RPM range that car is going to be optimal and most efficiently run at. And that's what you're aiming for. So you should, I say you should have a tack in your car. I didn't have a tack in my car for the first 2, maybe 3 years that I had it. I just went off ear. One of those years we won a championship with no tack. So, I mean, I won plenty of races with no tack. But a tack's going to help you if you really want to fine-tune things. So, get a tack in your car. Anyways, built motors, the guys tend to want to run up around 8,000 RPMs, maybe more. I don't like that just because I guess I'm nervous. I'm a nervous Nelly. I don't want to spin my motor that high. So I tend to stay around 7,500, somewhere in that area. So for example, if you're trying to figure out what size tire you want to run, Outlaw is a 3/8. It's a little bit bigger 3/8. Lots of banking. It's a fast racetrack. I run a 363. It is the Cobalt XFE. I believe they call it Extreme Fuel Economy. Transmission. A lot of my teammates run 384s. They run higher RPMs. They have built motors. I don't really. I have a set of cams. That's it. It's not ported. It's not polished. I run stock fuel injectors. So I run a 205 70/15 on the right side of the car, both right side tires. On the left side of the car, I run a 205 65 on the left front. My left rear is a little tiny tire. I think it's like a 185 50/15 or something like that. It's a little tiny thing. That's normally what I run on the left rear. It's kind of, that tire's just kind of a placeholder, especially with a straight axle rear car. You Honda guys with your independent rear suspension, maybe you don't want to run something that small, but we're carrying that thing most of the time anyway. Going into the corner, it's not really doing much. Kind of like the left front on a rear wheel drive car. Really not a ton of weight on it. It's not really doing a ton. So, obviously, some guys like to run wider tires. I've had the best luck with I literally have the most wins on my 205 70s. And I usually run a Douglas, cheap Walmart tire. The Douglases changed. They used to be like a 420 or a 440 tread wear. They changed them. Now they're like a 500 tread wear. It's a little bit different tread pattern than it was before, and they're a little bit more expensive. They used to be between 50, 60 bucks. Now they're up over 75 bucks. I usually go to Walmart.com and I search tires by size, and I will just look at a tread pattern that I think looks good. I usually want to try to find something with a good squared edge. Something with a rounded edge isn't going to give you a ton of bite. You know what I mean, for turning. So I just bought, they're over there. They're Black Hawk. They were cheap. They were on the cheaper side, and they had a little bit more squared edge and tread pattern very similar to a Douglas, and they're a 420 tread wear. That seems to be, at least in my experience, 420, 440 seems to be like a happy place on the tread wear when you're running a DOT tire. There's guys that are going to disagree with me. That's fine. But in my experience, that seems to be the happy place where I have the best luck. So I purposely looked, figured out what the tread wear was on the Blackhawks. I liked how cheap they were because I'm a cheapskate. I don't like spending a ton of money on stuff, especially wear items. Some of these guys are spending $100, $20, $130, $140 on, you know, BF Goodrich's, and that seems to be the tire everybody down south uses. And I don't like doing that, because inevitably some dummy's going to run into me and flatten my tire. And if I just put a brand new $130, $40, $50, $160 tire on, I'm going to be pissed. That's kind of one of the reasons I got away from running the race tires, because they were up like more than $200 a piece. And I've put a brand new one on and gone on the racetrack and had it get cut down in a heat race. Let me tell you, this is supposed to be a cheaper class. It's getting a little blown out of proportion with guys spending tons and tons of money on their motors. Sorry. Which I think I've proven at this point isn't really necessary. The best part about front wheel drives is it is 90% driver, maybe 80% driver. It is mostly driver. If you can set the car up and get it to turn and rotate, and you understand the physics behind the turning wheels being the power wheels and moving this car forward and getting the traction you need, you can be fast. So that's why I like the class. I've had plenty of people ask me, because I've driven all kinds of stuff. I've had plenty of people ask me, are you going to move up? No, I'm not. I have kids and a family. I got stuff to pay for. I'm gonna do this. It's fun. I tend to make money. I know that sounds crazy. I tend to profit every year. Now, I'm not making a bunch of money. This isn't high level racing, okay? But for what it costs me for parts on my car, like to fix stuff and go to the track every week, put gas in it, every year I tend to make a little bit of money. Like enough that I have to pay taxes on it, which is silly. But it is what it is. I'd rather be doing that than spending tons of money and not winning anything. So I'm out there having a blast with my friends. I'm winning. I'm bringing home cash. You know, even when I don't win, we still have a good time. I'm still out there having fun. I'm still out there racing. There's a lot of people out there not racing because they refuse to drive one of these things. I was skeptical at first when we built the front wheel drives. I was like, I don't know about this. But then after I got out there, a few laps in, I'm like, okay, this is fun. You know, a few more laps, a little bit more seat time, it became pretty clear that it was mostly driver. And from there, we've just kind of kept moving down that path. And it's a riot, all right? The first day I rolled this car off the trail at the racetrack, now that was 5 years ago. Obviously, our economy, I'm going to stop talking about that right now. Everything's more expensive, okay? But the first day I rolled this car off the trailer, back when it was purple and yellow, I had right around $3,600 in the entire build. The entire build, rolling it off the trailer, okay? I led most of the feature that night. Right off the trailer. The car wasn't even close to being set up the way it is now. Not the weight ratios, nothing. So you can do this fairly inexpensively if you're smart about it and you shop around and you do most of the work yourself. Now, if you're going to pay somebody to build you a car, that's going to get expensive. I'm not building you a car because my cars are expensive. They're not cheap, and people get mad, but they're not cheap. I give most of you guys the knowledge you need to build one of these race cars. Like, exactly the same as mine. People are messaging me all the time asking questions, and I just give y'all the information. I don't hide it. I just give it right to you. And the competition at the tracks where I've done this and given people information has gotten significantly better. There's better racing. Guys are succeeding and doing well. The cars I've built win championships. The cars I help with win championships. Like, they win races. I'm trying to help y'all. If you want to race, this is probably the cheapest way to do it. Now, if you want to start adding horsepower and cutting all the weight out of your car, I think you're going in the wrong direction, and we talk about that back if you go scroll down a ways to the videos where I talk about driving. There's 2 videos, beginners and then slightly advanced. I think the slightly advanced one talks about the power to weight ratio and basically what you're doing to yourself when you do those things. So, first year building a car, I've said this a million times, don't add a shit ton of horsepower, don't cut a shit ton of weight off the car. Borrow a set of scales, take it to your buddy's house who's got a set of scales. My scale numbers are out there. If you want them, you can message me. I will give you my scale numbers. The car's heavy, but there's a ton of weight right here, left front. Welded diff. Hopefully your track lets you run a welded diff. Some guys like limited slip. They usually finish behind me. That's all I'm going to say about that. Do with the information I give you what you will. All right, I got to try to put a transmission back in. I hate this part. All right, well, it's Tuesday, so I need to upload this video. I'm taping this right now, and I'm going to go right in the house and upload it. But the tires are prepped. About to go on the car because we're going Outlaw this weekend, if the weather allows it. It's not looking too good right now, but it's 2,500 to win at Outlaw Speedway down in Dundee, New York. The second SCDRA Northeast race. So, wish me luck. The tires are, I got 2 new right fronts that are mounted and ground. The left fronts from last time flipped. This one's still pretty good. That one's not great. So that's going to be our spare. Maybe we'll run hot laps with it or something, but it's not great. So this will be our left front for the feature. We might start the night off with that one, but it ain't in that great shape. So I mounted and or switched 5 tires Sunday because I had to take the left rear off and straighten the rim and then put it back on. So 5 tires manually. I don't have any fancy machines. So that was fun. But mechanically we're good. Transmission's back in. Clutch is bled. I gave it a once over. Everything looks pretty good and tight. I checked my tranny fluid, but that should be fine. I didn't lose any. Other than that, I think we're good. So, as usual, your mental health is just as important as your physical health, and they do affect each other. So, keep it creative and happy building.